Divine Oracle, Unwritten Words Behind My Novel. The Historical Blueprint of a Great Argead Saga, ALEXEIN. Volume 1, Telesias, The War Dance. By Makāula Nakae. Audio Essay. Episode 6, The Historical Source Vacuum. Welcome back to Divine Oracle. Unwritten Words Behind My Novel. I am Makāula Nakae. When you step into the world of ALEXEIN, you are entering a historical space that mainstream storytelling completely avoids. People often ask me, why hasn't anyone written about Philip and Olympias before they became king and queen? Why is their youth, their teenage years and early 20s, completely missing from popular books and movies? The simple, frustrating truth is that the historical record is silent. We possess almost zero primary source material tracking that specific time frame, especially concerning their personal development. This profound source vacuum is driven by three major structural factors in ancient historiography. The Three Pillars of Erasure. 1. The Pre-Eminence Rule. In ancient Greece and Macedonia, history was strictly written about absolute rulers and pivotal state events, never about royal children, younger princes, or foreign princesses. Philip and Olympias were simply not considered politically significant enough to merit detailed coverage until they became dominant players on the world stage. Before Philip unexpectedly seized the throne in 359 BCE, he was merely a low-ranking younger prince. His most critical, life-altering chapter was his 3 to 4 year stint as a political hostage in Thebes between 368 and 364 BCE. Yet his childhood and early 20s remain virtually undocumented beyond his parentage. Similarly, Olympias was a foreign princess from Epirus, a mountain kingdom viewed by southern Greeks as a marginal, rugged periphery. Her recorded history only begins in 357 BCE, when her strategic marriage to Philip forced her into geopolitical relevance. Before that moment, she was known simply as Polizina, her original name, and her life was entirely confined to the private court of her uncle and brother. 2. The loss of primary sources. The most devastating blow to our understanding of this era is that the comprehensive primary sources, the daily diaries, personal correspondence, and contemporary histories penned by Alexander's actual companions and eyewitnesses were entirely lost or destroyed during the turbulent centuries following the collapse of the empire. The texts we rely on today are secondary and tertiary accounts, compiled by Roman era writers like Plutarch, Arrian, and Diodorus Siculus, working hundreds of years later. These later historians aggressively filtered out the mundane, early years of our characters, choosing only to preserve the most sensational, pivotal, or politically explosive moments of their adult lives. 3. The focus on the product Alexander. The vast majority of ancient historical attention was directed solely at the blinding glare of Alexander the Great's conquests. Philip's early struggles and Olympias's pre-marriage years were only mentioned by ancient scribes insofar as they explained how Alexander became Alexander. For the classical world, the historical narrative of this family essentially begins only when they become the parents of the future conqueror. The challenge for writers. For a historical novelist, this lack of reliable data creates a monumental, terrifying challenge. With no pre-existing fictional framework or academic anchor, the writer is forced to invent almost everything. The physical spaces they inhabited, the nature of their education, and their early emotional development. Because fabricating this deep history requires immense research and creative stamina, most authors take the easy path. They jump straight to the point where the historical record officially begins: the Battle of Chaeronea, the late marriage crisis, and Alexander's birth. This is exactly what makes ALEXEIN a radical literary departure. By choosing to map Olympias's life from the raw age of 7 and tracking Philip through his volatile teenage exile, we are deliberately operating in the most challenging, dangerous, and least documented historical space in antiquity. Targeted novels, The Third Sacred War, and the Pythia. To navigate this source vacuum and reconstruct the strategic, military, and deeply spiritual atmosphere of Greece during Philip's decisive rise, we have to look closely at the Third Sacred War, spanning 357 to 346 BCE. This conflict was Philip's primary vehicle for conquering the Greek states, yet most popular fiction completely skips it to get straight to Alexander's battles in Persia. The following exceptional novels and series are essential reference Points for understanding the unique geopolitical, religious, and martial landscape that directly informs the architecture of ALEXEIN, which I did not read yet. 1. Focus on Philip II and strategic consolidation. The Lion of Macedon series by Christian Cameron. This work provides extraordinary, hyper-detailed military historical fiction, focusing on the era directly encompassing Philip II's rise in the 360s BCE. It is an invaluable resource for grasping the physical mechanics of the early Macedonian battlefield, the tactical development of the deep column phalanx, and the relentless frontier conflicts that forced Philip to harden his state. 2. Focus on Thebes and Epaminondas's legacy. The Sacred Band by Donna J. Russo. To understand Philip's eventual dominance, one must first master the military genius of the Theban generals who mentored him. Although this novel centers on the Sacred Band's earlier, earth-shattering victory at the Battle of Leuctra in 371 BCE, it is absolutely crucial for establishing the profound, emotional, and tactical ethos of Epaminondas, the exact philosophy Philip studied in exile before annihilating that very same Sacred Band at Chaeronea in 338 BCE. 3. Focus on the Pythia and religious conflict. The Oracle by Kate Reading. This narrative uses the sacred sanctuary of Delphi as its central, commanding setting. Because the core motivation of the Third Sacred War was the literal control of the Oracle and the catastrophic raiding of its divine treasury by the Phocians. Exploring this sacred space allows us to understand the deep political corruption and the profound moral justifications that Philip expertly manipulated to secure his hegemony. The ritual blueprint of ALEXEIN. The Third Sacred War is the absolute key to unlocking the true genius of King Philip II. It was never a standard war of unprovoked conquest. It was a masterclass in strategic intervention. Philip brilliantly masked his true, calculating ambition, the absolute subjugation of Greece, behind a noble, pious cause, defending the sacred side of Delphi. First, he utilized the compromised state of the Pythia to his advantage. The Phocians had systematically looted Apollo's holy treasury to fund an army of ruthless mercenaries. By intervening as a supposed champion of Apollo, Philip instantly positioned himself as the supreme moral, religious, and political leader of the Greek world, an essential psychological step before he could declare himself hegemon of the Hellenic Crusade. Second, this holy war granted Philip the absolute legal right to march his professional armies deep into central Greece without triggering immediate, united resistance from Athens or Thebes. He utilized this conflict to build the massive military infrastructure, secure the mountain passes, and establish the strategic choke points required to permanently control the entire region. This period of hidden maneuvers is the true, unfiltered story of Philip's intellect. In ALEXEIN, we do not skip these missing years. We dive headfirst into the silence of the source vacuum, utilizing the cold calculus of the Third Sacred War and the sacred mysteries of the Pythia to rebuild the world exactly as it was lived. Tune in for our next daily drop tomorrow as we continue to dissect the bloodlines of antiquity. ALEXEIN, a great Argead saga. Volume 1, Telesias, the War Dance. Unearth the ultimate historical drama. We are releasing a brand new episode every single day until the epic conclusion of Volume 1. Each chapter delivers a tight, hyper-focused, 5 to 15-minute hit of cinematic historical drama, the perfect daily plunge into the ancient world. Watch the cinematic video trailer. Listen to the full saga now. Bookmark Volume 1, Telesias playlist. Subscribe to follow the rise of the Argead dynasty. Thumbs up to help push our vanguard through the algorithm's gauntlet. Comment below. Was Olympias' political violence an act of savage madness or a cold, calculated defense of the Argead throne? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below.